I am going to call the October 10th Volunteer Coordinating Committee meeting to order at 6:08 p.m. If you need to call roll.
Larry Jackson.
Here.
Don Balin. Here. Leslie Reisig.
Present.
Sorry.
Here.
Corey, yes. Shani Starr.
Here.
And Emerson Corella.
We're not sure where he's at today.
And Daisy Hickman.
Is excused.
And Jane Herb.
Is excused. So first, do we have any public testimony this evening? I don't see anybody here.
They're here to answer questions.
For the volunteer.
Yeah, for the volunteer of the quarter.
But no, like, actual public testimony?
Correct.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from when we last met? Seems like 5 years ago.
I'll make the motion to accept the September 2024 minutes as presented.
Second.
August minutes, yeah.
Oh,
We didn't meet in September.
yeah, correction, August minutes 2025.
I still second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the August minutes for our last meeting. Is there any conversation that needs to happen? Those who approve, say aye.
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 Those who don't, same sign. Hearing none, the minutes pass. And we are moving on to volunteer of the quarter. Did everybody get a chance to read those nominations? Any questions?
I just like to say, it's too bad we have two such deserving candidates at one time. I mean, I'm glad they're here, but it would be super nice that each one would have had their own and not, but both are very deserving. So there was a couple things mentioned as we could give it both or save one over or whatever, but I would suggest we put them both forward to city council as volunteers of the quarter. To do it now.
Is there precedent of that?
Hasn't.
I don't think there's been two in the past, has there?
Yes, there have, but from what I found in the records is that usually it was because they were working on the same project.
Oh.
But there's nothing to say that there can't be two people. And so the options, and I also checked your budget. So the options are you can select one or two nominees, and you can select, if you select two, you can select both of them to be in the third quarter, or you could have one be in the third quarter and one be for the fourth quarter, volunteer of the quarter.
Go ahead, Counselor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification, if you do one in the fourth quarter, does that mean if you get another nomination in the fourth quarter that person can't be selected? Like do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that you can have two, because you could have two, and I talked with Melissa about this too. You could have two in this quarter, so.
Right, but what you said was you could select one for third quarter and select one for fourth quarter, but then if you got another nomination in, next month for fourth quarter, you have already selected the fourth quarter. So would you just carry the nomination over, or are you saying that your recommendation that they could vote now selecting one for third and then essentially eliminating the opportunity for anybody else to be nominated for the fourth quarter.
I think if that's what you want to do, I would put it in the motion as.
No, I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I'm
not you
asking you
necessarily,
to
but the-
clarify what I heard you say.
Okay, so the way I see it is you could have 2 volunteers of the quarter for third and 2 for volunteer of the quarter for the fourth quarter. So yes, you could make a motion tonight for the third quarter and the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter would be recognized probably in December or early January at the council meeting.
Can I just say it a different way?
Yes, please.
So what I think, if I may,
Yes.
I think what Shani is saying is if we were to choose one person tonight for the third quarter, we would save over the second one for the fourth quarter. If there are any other applications received for fourth quarter, those folks would not be eligible because we've already chose one from the stack that we have here.
Yes, I think you can do that as long as you state that in your motion to make sure that it's clear so that we're not accepting more.
Is that what you're meaning? And then if that happens, what happens to those that come in? Do we just save those for the new year or?
Yeah, that's what I would do that. I mean, that's the way I see it. There really isn't much written on volunteer of the quarter, so.
Okay. Here's my question. If we have 2 individuals who are very involved in neighborhood associations and we choose both of them, will it be like, oh, well, we chose 2, or the other neighborhood association chairs not being recognized? Any thoughts on that? You want to come forward?
I comment.
You have a comment?
From what I read on both of what was submitted, it's pretty clear these people go above and beyond.
Okay.
To me,
Okay.
and again, I would go back to what I said earlier. I just would hate for something like the fourth quarter to come into play in any such way. So let's just, I mean, my suggestion is we take care of it now and move them both forward. I know the Earls, Don Senior and Junior, was awarded that a year ago together, and council gave them 2 clocks, because I was here to do that. But yes, that was more for the Iris Festival and what they can there.
Yeah.
But
What is your read on
I
that?
think I'll just encourage other neighborhood associations to nominate somebody out of their group. I don't think anybody's going to feel like, well, there's.
Slighted or
2.
anything?
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't think so, knowing the other chairs. And just a suggestion, I don't know if you have to do it on the same night, if you do it at city council. Can you do it separate nights? If you do 2 in one quarter, that's kind of an option. Or I would suggest do you have a third quarter? Are we in the third quarter? Okay. Okay, I was going to write a letter for Ken too, and I know many of us would have. If you wanted, and I think he's more, I think it needed to have that volunteer the quarter sooner than Carol. I think Carol could wait if you wanted
Thank
to
you
wait
for
till the end.
clarifying. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, Ken's not doing well, so I think, and I think what Colleen can speak about it too. I think Ken is kind of more of a lifetime achievement too, that I think it would be kind of nice to have them a little separated, that maybe that night at the city council, like we had one for Carol Dorfler, but we didn't have, she had gotten volunteer the quarter already. So when we presented at the city council, you know, spoke about her work. And so, I don't know. I mean, I would like to have Carol sooner than later, but, you know, I think that might be a good move to do Ken this third quarter and have it more of a, kind of a little party. I'm sure they would like to, that neighborhood association would like to have some little recognition at the city council, and then maybe have Carol at the end, at the fourth quarter, so.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Yeah.
That's very kind.
Yeah.
Makes our decision a little easier, I think. Um,
I wouldn't want to preclude anybody from having 2 in 1 quarter.
yeah,
Because, yeah,
I think,
but I think that might work for you.
come on up, Colleen.
I need to say my name and residence. Colleen Kaiser, Colleen Bush Kaiser. My question, though, I think I was understanding Rhonda saying if you did it separated when they were honored, like one at the first meeting of the month and then one at this next meeting of that same month, if you wanted to do 2 in a quarter. And that way that still gives you the 4th quarter for other people. Is that what you're saying?
What do you think about that? Do you think council would be okay with that?
I mean, I'm one of 7. So I think they're going to take the recommendation of the VCC.
Okay.
Do you still need us up here?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm with Larry. Like, if they're both really great candidates and we can do it separately to do the individual, that's what I'd kind of go more towards.
So in the motion, or in the voting, it would have to be, I move to elect both of them to win, with one being, would it be next week?
It wouldn't be next week, no. Probably it would be
Just say the
in
next.
November.
Okay.
Yeah, we could just say the next city council meeting and then the second person to be recognized at the following meeting.
Yes, Dawn.
I need time for the clocks to arrive. Melissa said that she was looking at the November 4th meeting for the recognition. So you, in your motion, you could ask for one to be recognized at the November 4th meeting and the other person be recognized at the November 18th meeting.
Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to move Carol Phelps' name as well as Ken Gerloff forward to city council for the 3rd quarter volunteer of the quarter, and present Ken Gerloff at the city council meeting November 4th and Carol Phelps on November 18th.
And I second that motion.
Has been motioned and seconded that Ken Gerloff move forward for volunteer of the quarter on November 4th, following with Carol Phipps on November 18th for volunteer of the quarter for the 3rd quarter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. It has been mutually celebrated that Ken and Carol will be volunteer of the quarter for 3rd quarter. Thanks, ladies. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. I mean, I don't know how you get Ken here without telling him that, but I don't think it's a surprise. I think that that people have been surprised before.
If you want to surprise them, why don't you just ask them to come and give a report for the neighborhood association?
There you go.
My procedure is that I would call the award winners and ask them, confirm that they can attend the council meeting at such and such date. But, I mean, if you all want to work behind the scenes, I don't have to make that phone call. Okay, okay. Okay. And what about Ken, too? Okay, so I'll wait for y'all to let me know when I can move forward with what I'm doing.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, next up. Volunteer applications. So for you and for Don and Larry, Leslie, myself, and Jane have attended a few of the CDEC meetings to discuss their hope that the voting process for their committee would come to us, and the council would then elect the person, much like the rest of the committees. And so for me, hearing that we didn't really get much further on questions or discussion on applications, I'm not sure, other than talking about what we want, anything applicable from those meetings. So I don't, I'm just up for whatever you guys want to talk about with that.
I didn't even think to bring the, kind of the paperwork.
I have
The
it.
one meeting I did come to with my notes on it. And quite honestly, I would, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm more the old school and ask the question you wanna ask. And I know, though, things have changed. And it just, that's where I come from. So I like, what was discussed is in these questions, when you have a candidate in front of us and you see they're qualified, I guess, or you see they're maybe have nothing down and you ask a question in regards to the committee that they're going on to, I would like to see that kind of open, that we can ask that kind of question than a scripted thing.
So would you want each committee to come up with their own questions, or
No,
you just want to be,
I-
you just
I
want the
mean-
freedom to be able to ask what you want to
I
ask?
feel what we've been doing is completely fine.
Okay.
No,
With
there's
regards in adding the CDEC committee members to the process, or keeping them out of it?
I don't know why they would be in it. I'm not involved in theirs.
No, like, we would vote them, we would vote
Volunteers.
Oh,
them on,
Appointed by
instead of being appointed by council.
Now, what was that?
just same way as how we're appointed city council
Parks or
member,
budget.
Right.
each for their actual committee. I think it's an important deal. I mean, to be quite honest too, and nothing against any one of them or a woman. But what I saw is there's not one man on that committee either. So how, if they're talking about diversity and equality or whatever the right terminology is where is that? I mean, if they want to get nickel and dime-ish, then a person could say that one thing too. I mean, what I saw from those ladies that were here at the city council one that I attended, that they're sharp people. I had no problem with any one of them making choice, I guess, or recommendations from the hour and a half or whatever we were here. I felt very comfortable with what each counselor appointed to that position to get accomplished what is supposed to be done. I think our counselors are smart people and can make,
Can you share, Shani, any sort of thought process of the council on this? Is it something that I know there's a couple that are absolutely firm and they don't want voting. Is there some that do?
I
Or-
am not going to speak on behalf of the council, because again, one of 7. And I think I think there's two, while they're connected, I think there's two separate kind of asks, if you will. Well, but they're interconnected. One is they want the VCC to vet the candidates or the applicants for the CDC and make their recommendation, right? So taking the counselors out of that function of appointing people. So I think that's suggestion number one. Suggestion number two is they want to recommend the questions that the VCC asks. And so that's number two. And what I recommended as part of that committee, that if you're going to do that for the CDEC, you have to do that for all of the committees, right? You can't just have one committee that is taking, in my opinion, right, is taking and giving questions to the VCC to ask. I don't think that is equitable. So those are the two different kind of, I think, decision points that are here with the VCC. And I don't even know if they're decision points, but then I think once the VCC comes to a consensus or votes and has a majority of going one way or going the other way, then that recommendation will go forward and consider it. But I do think we have another work session, don't we, in July with all three of the groups together.
Yes.
Or not July. Oh my gosh, I am longing for summer past. I meant November. Where July came from, I have no idea.
I haven't seen the list for the agendas coming up, but I know that it's going to happen.
There was like a joint between all three, City Council, CDEC, and VCC. So that's kind of where it stands now.
Like the first week of November, because I believe I'm gone.
It should be the second Monday of November, would be the work session.
I'm just going to look in my
That's
phone
Veterans
really quick.
Day. The 11th is Veterans.
So maybe then the 12th, Tuesday.
I'd be gone, but anyway. But thanks for the clarity on the other.
Yeah, they're related but separate.
I have a question.
I will
What?
attempt.
Go for it.
What from their committee drove them to want to have people be voted for by us? Because they're the ones who brought this forward, right? The committee themselves?
Yes.
Are they unhappy with some appointments in the process? Or are they just want to be recognized like the other committees?
Leslie.
I think I kind of understood that there was a little bit of turnover and also the transparency. I think they, this is just my thought because of what they had said, and if I'm not recalling that correctly, please let me know. But I thought they had said because of the vacancy in the positions, and then they just haven't had people stick around. And that might be because of not maybe the same outreach, I guess. I think they were hoping that they would get more people involved because if we did it, there would be more applicants. I think maybe, maybe. I mean, that was kind of what they were thinking, is that maybe that their circle was maybe too small for, like, the counselors that had appointed, maybe they didn't have enough people interested, or I don't know.
I mean, there are, at times, we have committee spots that are vacant for a while because we don't have applicants. I know that that's been, we've had that before. I'm looking at Ms. Wilson, and she's nodding her head yes for those listening at home. So, I mean, I think it's, you know.
I guess I could see it both ways, because I wouldn't be part of this committee if a counselor had not reached out to me. Even though I see all of the applicants' availability, I've not followed through with applying for any of them, even though some of them have interested me. And so I feel like that by personally being asked, I felt committed when I said yes. So interesting that they've had more turnover in that group.
I think that sometimes, so it was, CDC is a new committee, right? So it started in, I think the first meeting was like in February or March of 2022. So it was a brand new committee, very new. I think it took some time to kind of get going and, kind of finding their way, so to speak, and moving forward and working on some things and kind of getting some momentum going. And I think some people maybe didn't know, maybe that wasn't,
It wasn't fleshed out enough for them.
it just, it didn't work, or they didn't feel like the committee was getting enough done, or, doing whatever. It wasn't a good fit. Let's say that. I do think it did take some time for the committee to get their momentum going. So,
Okay.
you can't help it when people move out of the city, right? And you have to reappoint. Or somebody takes a different job and they can't keep the commitment, right? So those are some things that you can't help. And I think I think that committee might have more, because it was new and some of the work that it was charged with doing, there might be, more attention on that committee. But I have sat on other committees where people have taken different jobs and had to leave, or they've moved out of the city, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then there's just some people that it wasn't a good fit. So that's.
And I don't know, Dawn, do we have, like, when people are done serving a committee or they finish early, do they have, like, their exit, like, why did I leave this committee? Because what I heard from, I think it was Counselor Kohler, is that he did talk to people, but I didn't know if we had anything written from these people that had put their time into these committees and their reasoning,
Yeah, the only thing that we have currently is for the youth, for an exiting questions for the youth, and there's one in the packet for tonight.
It might be helpful to consider that for committees if there is high turnover, like the reasons why, or anybody just leaving. And if they fill it out, great. And if they don't, I guess, but it helps give some substance to what we're talking about. If that is a main reason why we should be doing it, would be helpful to know those things. Mm-hmm. From the person, great that there's encounters, but I think something written from the people that are leaving and the reason why.
Maybe the date selected is just has
Yeah,
too many
maybe
conflicts within the community. It has nothing to do with the committee at all.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to speak from my heart, so please don't shoot the messenger. But I have heard from some folks who have left the committee that it wasn't moving fast enough. There wasn't enough work to be done. They didn't know what they were there to do, which I don't know how, I think maybe if we're appointing folks, that the application process would be more thorough for those individuals to really understand what they're applying for and what they're doing. So I can see a positive for having an application process for this. But I also see that it's a very fragile committee. And for a counselor to have the autonomy to choose somebody, because really they're speaking for that counselor, I think that's kind of going to be lost, if you will, in my thought process of really thinking this through. I'm also wondering, what is the goal, again, of this committee wanting folks to be moved through the same process as all the others? Is it so that there is more applications and diversity, or is it so that the counselors don't have that privilege of appointing anymore. And that's just my honest thought process and in processing what's happening here. Because if that is, for me, if that's any part of this end goal is to not have counselors appointing because of that, then I can't move forward with this process. So I really need to know that honest, true answer. Those are my 2 senses.
If a counselor nominates and puts someone forward themselves, it's going to be a much faster process than going through us. So if there is turnover, it seems to me like you're going to fill that committee faster if they continue with the method which you're using. And the counselor can also know already what kinds of people are already part of that group and who will fit in to continue the work better than we are going to know.
My other thought is with the, how do I want to say this? With this committee being so special that the thought process of the counselor appointing, I think, in my opinion, leaves no room for there to be much bickering, or because you guys are really thinking about who you're asking to be here and trusting those individuals. And if we're voting somebody in just because they want to be on this type of committee or have a say in what's going on with any sort of hot topic in the community, then I think we're missing the point of what this is for. And having appointed folks, I think is going to get the work done faster. And then it also brings me to my next thought process that this committee should be itself engaging the community and bringing people into the meetings. So I guess for me, I feel like appointment is still a good thing, but then that committee needs to be doing the outreach to the community because it is a community engagement and diversity committee. So we need those people here to be on the committee, even if they're not a voting member or whatever. They need to, the community needs to come in, or they need to go out to engage more. But I don't know if I see a positive in voting for them. That's just my 2 cents.
What I saw when I was on this committee, when we interviewed for the Charter Review Committee, and there was like 12, or there was quite a few people on that. It wasn't just to review that, and it got into agenda-driven stuff, and those were concerns I have as a member of this community, of those things, and I feel like, again, sit on this committee to interview these other folks that we do to have a best fit for the whole of the community, whether I like it or not, or have that same view, what's best for Kaiser. I think I would be more leaning towards that we stay out of it, and the council has make their choice of each member, and leave it at that.
And I would agree. I think there was a couple of things. 'Cause we went to the work session, and then I recently had went to their last meeting on the 3rd. And there was just some concerning things to me about because I was trying to figure out what the committee did, and I think they're still figuring that out as well. And I think city council also too, like their roles, because it's so new. And I was a little concerned with kind of how many times like, oh, we can create a policy from that committee. And I was like, wait, is that what that committee is? Is it a policy committee, like creating new policy, or just suggestions for things? And so I was just like, okay, well, you know, I didn't know they're gonna look at other cities and create policy. I thought more like what Corey was saying is like they're putting themselves out there in the community to get the community to come in here, not just create policy, you know, for communication was kind of one of the things, or like verbiage, you know, that's kind of what my perception is so far, and that could be wrong. I mean, unless you guys kind of sit in and listen to those meetings, you know, you would maybe not see the same things, and that was just where I was kind of looking at, and I was like, I'm confused. So I did think that their application, it does take a little away from us as far as having that creativity when the person's here. I didn't mind like suggested questions for them to answer as they're going on these committees, because they kind of know an expectation of what those rules are. And the other part too, thinking that maybe in the suggested questions is also saying, hey, we really highly recommend that you attend one of those committee meetings before applying. And, you know, that would help when they come in, we can ask them questions, because there were some people that like, I just want to volunteer. And like, okay, you know, so it makes it a little bit more engaging when they know a little bit more about the committees that they're actually applying for. And that might help narrow down to which ones, when it comes to the application, where their heart felt like, yeah, I should really be involved in that committee. So, and the rubric kind of confused me too. So in the application, there was I mean, it wasn't bad, but I think the rubric, they wanted for transparency to kind of score, like have each one of us score the candidates with how they answered those questions. And I think if we wrote like what we thought for how they answered the questions, I thought that was kind of a little too much. Like I thought it was a good idea, and then thinking about it is like, well, if I think this, where does this information go as we're filling out the rubric? It goes back to you and you hold on to it, and then people can bring that up, right? And so I was like, well, what if they didn't, you know, like how I scored them? I was a little apprehensive on that too. It's like, I didn't
Create more conflict.
Yeah, if it was anonymous, so sometimes in reviews you have, let's say, a group of people that anonymously did it, then I would be a little bit more okay with that. So I didn't want to be like, my name, Leslie Reiswick, on, you know, this person, testing them. I felt like that was a little invasive. I don't know. But that's just kind of my thoughts on it. And I asked for definitions on words, and when we were in the work session, it reverted back to a resolution, R 2020-3135, and I don't have that in front of me, and I didn't find it, but I think that's important to know. And I know that the definition, sorry, to clarify, was justice, diversity, equity, inclusion. What do they mean to you, and how do they define them in this committee, and also in the application questions that they had? And I had put forth a suggestion for using very simple words like betterment, or, you know, because those can be interpreted different ways by different people. So simplicity in the application questions gets us,
Especially for English language learners.
yeah, it just, like, when you think about it, when the legislation, actually what they're supposed to do is, like, I think a 9th grade level, right, for all policy procedure, you know, it should be very simplistic language. And so that was my suggestion, is that we don't have anything that's hard to define in the questions that come forward, so.
And Leslie, did you make that, refresh my memory, because that was seems like a long time ago. Did you make those, you did make those suggestions
I
in your
did. I had a few
testimony.
examples for
right.
the mayor. Kathy had asked me, Mayor Clark had asked me if I had some suggestions, and I wrote a few down. And I think I could have been better prepared for that. I think, but I was just trying to get my grasp on how they were doing things and how things were moving forward. So I'd want more time before I'd even say, yeah, like these suggested questions go forward to city council. Like, I think all the committees could put forth their suggested questions and the applicants can fill them out or not, and then we do the best job we can. But I don't think having an application how they have it, I wouldn't vote for that right now. And I also agree with everybody else as far as city council appointment for that committee until it gets more people and maybe a little bit more time.
May I ask, I have a question for you and Dawn, if you know, I don't know. Has there ever been a survey for the citizens on how to engage for committees?
I believe I asked this question. Dawn, help me. I remember asking it. I just don't remember at what meeting I asked it, but I think it was at the CDC meeting. And I asked Mr. Wood, the staff liaison for that committee, to pull the data that came out of the community. There was a lot of work done, right, for the
Charter?
not just the charter, but also the strategic plan about engagement and how do you want to, so I asked them to work on pulling that data as well from those responses so that could inform the work on outreach and engagement, because I think that seems to be a big concern.
I think I'd like to see that data too, because we could be doing all this work and nobody wants to fill out an application for this committee because it's scary or, I'd like to, I guess
Be intact.
yeah, I think I'd like to know that. And I guess for me, what I would like to see in this city is if there is going to be a community engagement hand or arm of the city, I think I would like to almost see them go out and find their next person and bring them to the counselor that has an opening, in my opinion. I mean, they're the ones that have to do the work with each other. And it's very important work. And if you're not gonna get along or, keeping in mind that we don't want a band of BFFs up here not being able to see the whole picture. But I kind of feel that too. Like, if they're the ones doing the work, they should have a say and recommend it to the counselor. So, from what I understand, they're the ones that are supposed to be going. I think we all have a really important job to go out into the community and get them to engage with the city. But their literal description of what they're supposed to be doing is going out into the community and recruiting for committees and task force and finding out what they want. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at too with that. And at this time, I don't think we can say yes or no, or other than saying that we still want counselors and the mayor to appoint their people. I think until more people.
Are we required to make a motion in that manner at this point for that, or is that just after discussion that's where we all stand?
I think I could answer that two different ways. And so, Dawn, feel free to jump in if I go steer the group in the wrong direction. I think that you could make a motion to recommend XYZ, or you could be okay with consensus of XYZ, because there is still that upcoming work session. I believe in November or December were the 3 groups. So you could make that recommendation back to the VCC, and then it gets discussed amongst everyone at the joint work session. I'm looking at you, am I wrong?
Yeah, I feel like it would be a softer tone just to kind of have a consensus tonight. And I agree, this is your opportunity in the open public meeting to figure out where you are with this and what you would like to do, and that's the way I see it. So then,
I think we need to hear from the counselors too. Like
Yeah.
what they think the benefits of recommending someone are and what the drawbacks are, so.
Counselor Kohler and Counselor Duran both gave their opinion, viewpoint, and facts about it all at the last work session. So you could go listen to that
Okay.
if you wanted to.
I can speak for myself. I wanted to hear from both right? Because I have appointees on both committees. So I want to take the information that I hear from this Community Diversity Engagement Committee. And then I also want to hear the conversation from the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. And I want to take them because it's unfair. I feel like it's unfair for me to make a decision when I've only heard the full conversation from one committee and not giving VCC a chance to have dialogue and talk amongst the committee to where they want to land or what kind of where they land. And now I feel like I can take the conversations that I've heard from both and kind of come up with where I, process it and then come up with, where I land.
Any other thoughts?
So we basically can table this?
Yes.
With the recommendation of, we work through the work sessions and get the data that you might be having as to how they can get more people involved and
Yeah.
look at it it would then be what, January?
Yeah, I think
would
in
end
my
up being?
in my perfect world, in my head, which is only my perfect world, I think we'll have the joint work session that we know is upcoming. And what I'm hearing from this group is that you've come to a consensus, right? That you would prefer that it's, and correct me if I've heard wrong, but you would prefer that the CDC members stay as appointed by the city councilors. So I'm seeing all of your heads nod. Yes, so to me, what I'm hearing is that is your consensus, and then you would come back to that work session and have that dialogue with both of them, or, with the CDEC, both committees together. The council will be there to hear it, ask questions, have dialogue as well. And then if the CDEC continues forward to put the recommendation forward to city council, then it would be on the city council too, right? So you can tell CDC, we've had a consensus and we think it should stay based on your conversation here tonight, and then they can still put a recommendation forward to city council.
Well, and do we give an opportunity to Emerson and Daisy to
And
come
Jane.
and Jane to come and engage again?
Well, that would be at the work session,
work
right?
session on the 12th.
Both committees are together in a joint work session with the city council.
Yeah, so I think, it'd be good to have as many of us there.
So whoever's going to make the motion to kick it back. Sorry. But I mean, I think we do need more information from our other members and
And the joint work session is, do we know an actual date?
I thought you said November 12th.
Well,
that-
November 11th is the Monday.
Yeah, but
And
the
November 12th is a long-range planning task force.
Maybe
Okay,
it's in
so-
December.
Okay.
I don't.
I think just making sure that we're all aware of that date so that we can be there.
Because if it is that week of November, I will not be here.
Dawn, if I could suggest getting that date nailed down ASAP and getting that out to both the council and the two committees, that would be great. Thank you.
so whoever wants to.
So I'll move that we table the decision on this until after the next joint work session and more information is gathered regarding the nomination versus application process.
I second that motion.
Do we need to have the process in there of what we're gonna look at, or is that good enough, Dawn?
I don't even think a motion is necessary, so I think it's good enough.
Okay. Well, it's been motioned and seconded to table this discussion until we have more information from the next joint session. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion passes. Has anybody or have you given more information or more thought to the volunteer recognition process? We need a motion to what we decided last, was July? Or did we decide that in August? The changes to the recognition? Or was it June?
I can't remember.
I can't remember
which
either.
meeting.
It
it
says
probably
8/22/24, so August. It's in the very page 42, 43. At the end.
Get my fingers to work. Aha, so we removed the word cookies from quite a bit of it.
That's right. That's right.
Even though cookies are my favorite. I'll take all the cookies. So the red is what has been
The changes
changed.
that you all had requested.
Yeah. Have you all looked at that? Feel good about that?
We went through quite a bit of time with it then. I hope we have it figured out.
I think we did.
I didn't feel like the changes were like too drastic.
No.
But they were well thought out with everybody. So.
So if anybody would like to make a motion to approve the new process for volunteer recognition,
I would like to make a motion to approve the volunteer recognition of the month changes that we made on 8/22/24.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion, further discussion?
I have one.
Okay.
So then, we are supposed to read the proclamation, because then at the very last says, because the proclamation is read by the mayor.
That's for city council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it says per Mayor Clark. I'm assuming that she added this last line, the very last line.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Council liaison to the VCC shall recognize the VCC at the meeting closest to Volunteer Recognition Month. So it has moved and second that the volunteer coordinating committee accept the new process for volunteer recognition, removing all the cookies. Sorry. I hope that's in the notes. All the cookies are removed. I'm kidding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you. I'll take all the cookies still. And we had an exit interview from our former youth counselor, Grayton Woodard. Anybody has any comments they'd like to share? Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dawn, can you give us the context and the background for this exit survey? I think it would be helpful for the committee to know when that was started and who came up with the questions and et cetera, et cetera.
I didn't find much information on it, just the questions and that it was noted on my calendar to make sure that I did it. I can look and try and find something further and then send an email out to all of you.
I would say it was back when like Counselor Freeman was on the, so it was like a while ago. Because I think she was the liaison then, when we talked about this.
Do you know why it's only done with the youth counselor and not with other committee members?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I like how he says that he enjoyed his experience and how the community works. And that he says there isn't really anything negative I would change necessarily. Just the website being updated, which is in process and working.
He makes a couple of comments about the website. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, that's telling me that it's not youth-friendly in his, from his perspective, which we talked about trying to have a separate youth section at one point.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dawn,
You're welcome.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Sorry. Dawn, are those appropriate questions to ask the youth counselor, or would you, I look to you because you
Work with them.
high school students every day? Would you recommend anything different?
Well, I think in some ways, they're going to give you the answers they think you want to hear. I mean, obviously, he's going to want a recommendation as being part of this, and so I'm not sure. Maybe making some of it more of a scale, where they, of 1 to 10, I think might end up giving us a little bit more information than him writing something.
I gotcha.
Because like I said, he's going to be trained to only focus on the positive aspects of it and never, so that we can't make changes to improve the experience for the next one.
Gotcha.
I think you can leave a section for him if they had other comments, feel free to kind of fill in the blank kind of.
Yeah, I definitely think he needs to have some kind of open-ended area, or they, but maybe more directed questions about specifically, is the time commitment too great for a youth? Is it too daunting to be the only youth in the room at the time? Or, what are some of the barriers to youth participating?
This might be like what he says. I believe there's already interest for other youth. However, out into classrooms and making the program wider known is something I'll be trying to make happen, and something that I can think can happen through the program as well. Creating a framework of getting this wonderful program out there and known is something that would be really great.
So wouldn't that follow like CDEC committee a little bit? Because they would be going out with, the youth and saying, hey, we want you to engage, you're a part of our community. Like that would be one of their tasks, maybe.
And I would say that that's part of the reason we've struggled to get youth liaisons for all the other committees as well. It's, kind of scary being in a room with other adults that you don't know and you don't feel like you have any power. I mean, is there a time where he gets to make comment in the okay, wasn't sure.
I don't know what orientation do the youth counselors get before they just show up to their first meeting and are shown where they sit?
I don't think there is an orientation. I can't think of,
I mean, I have kids who don't even want to sit in the front of my classroom, much less sit in front of this. So that's, without some kind of prep for that in any of them, I think it would be incredibly daunting.
And I don't just mean for the youth counselor position. That was really a question for even youth liaisons. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that?
That was really helpful, Dawn. Thank you.
I mean, I think, even going over parliamentary procedures a little bit with them, since all the committees are following that in the orientation would probably be a good, even if you get it boiled down to Robert's rules, at least they get the basic process.
I think that'd be good. I mean, it's even good to refresh those, coming in for me, it was intimidating. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's been a while since I had practiced it, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think that for all new committee appointees too, it might be helpful to have something similar, even if we're doing it for the youth. Some sort of introduction before you're actually live.
That's great. I think that's a good idea.
Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, I will be adjourning the Volunteer Coordinating Committee meeting on October 10th, still at 7:10 p.m.
So in lieu of our meeting
had to
next
do
month,
it.
we're going to be going to this joint meeting. Is that kind of what the plan is, sort of?
What was that?
In lieu of our, November meeting, are we looking at just doing this joint meeting? Is that likely to be what's?
Well, I think that's a question dependent upon
When the meeting is happening.
When the work session is. So I would say, I'll just put this out there. If we have the work session in November, unless there's any pressing business for this committee, I probably wouldn't meet because you have Thanksgiving, even though it's super late in the month. But if it's in December, I mean, you're not going to have a meeting anyway if you don't have it.
In any volunteer
Right.
applications.
But if you do have those applications, given that there is a holiday week in there and another holiday
And veterans.
earlier in the month, maybe moving it to a December meeting. Or vice versa. Do you see what I'm?
yeah, so when I find out the date, I'll email the chair and see what you want to do.
Okay. I'll just be glad we don't have football 4 nights a week.